What's up, kids? Welcome to Wrestler Geeks. I'm your host, Justin Shaw.
I'm the announcer. That's the Fox, Black Fox.
All right, so in this episode of Wrestler Geeks, we're going to have an open discussion. So, Black Fox, what do you want to talk about?
Well, what do you want to talk about?
Well, since the beginning of the show, I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time an organization known as Impact Wrestling, formerly known as TNA. What are your thoughts on Impact Wrestling?
Well, Impact Wrestling for me, back then when it was a startup company, when it was starting out, it had a lot of interesting talent that WWE didn't really, like, that weren't homegrown in the WWE way, that tried to do their own thing, but like it was basically for people who were actually centered around the indies, brought into TNA, or another situation was TNA, like if you were fired from WWE, you would go to TNA. In situations like that. Like that's where TNA was basically where guys like Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles.
Yes.
They basically that helped groom them or helped make them more famous than they are, like when they were back then. Like it was like the center home for them, and they had their names. They already had their names. Like Ring of Honor helped brandish their names, but like TNA was the place that basically, in a sense, kind of elevated them more to where there was. Like people knew who they were afterwards. After that, so like it was even a place where guys like Kurt Angle and Sting went to after their
Right.
Good times. Those are good matches.
I always thought TNA, or should I say now, Impact Wrestling, was a wrestling organization for all the wrestlers. Basically, remember when WCW went bankrupt or something like that?
Yeah.
All the wrestlers from WCW formed the organization we know today as Impact Wrestling.
Not really. It was more of...
Basically, all the wrestlers from WCW, when WCW ended, went to TNA.
Yeah, you would either go to TNA or WWE. Or like if you were not in WWE, you would go to TNA or you would go somewhere else. Like it was founded by Jeff Jarrett.
Right.
After like his whole thing with WWE, he got together with Dixie Carter. He got money from her funding and created TNA. He did his thing for a while, and he had an interesting design. Like one of my favorite things about TNA, which I was surprised at when I first saw, was the six-sided ring.
Okay.
I wasn't like, all wrestling rings have 4 rings. But like for that one, it was just like the 6 sides and 3 turnbuckles. That was to me was the most interesting aspect about it. It was just something completely different. And at the same time, like they brought stuff that was WCW and at the same time some WWE thing. Like I still to this day never understood what the King of the Mountain matches were, to be honest with you.
King of the Mountain match. I've heard about them, but I never understood what they were.
Yeah, like I never understood that part. Like for me, it was always the X Division.
Okay.
Which was like a cross between the Cruiserweight and, basically it was a better version of the Cruiserweight.
Okay.
It was TNA's own version of the Cruiserweights.
What I don't understand about Impact Wrestling is that they have a division of some sort called, they have some sort of belt called the Grand Championship.
Ah.
Whereas, like, I've seen a couple of matches in Impact Wrestling that dealt with the Grand Championship. It's like they try to mix wrestling with boxing or wrestling with MMA. I keep saying it so many times. I'm now getting tongue twisted.
Yeah.
It's like the Grand Championship. It's set up as like a combination of boxing or MMA with the judges with wrestling.
Yeah.
It's like you have to either beat your opponent in a submission or pinfall in a 3-minute time limit, and it's like, what, 2 or 3 rounds?
Yeah.
To me, it's just silly. I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't think it works.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna be for real with you. The X Division, the thing with that championship is there have always been 3 things known in TNA. It was always the X Division, the World Heavyweight, and then there's the Knockout Championship, the women's version. The thing about that belt is, and this is my thing, that belt has been like, and this is from what I've seen in
the
TNA.
Grand Championship?
Yeah, because before it was the Grand Championship, it was called the King of the Mountain. Before it was the King of the Mountain. Before it was the King of the Mountain.
Oh, so that's what you meant when you said King of the Mountain.
Well, the King of the Mountain. Whole thing of the King of the Mountain was a type of match or pay per view they had to determine the heavyweight championship or number 1 contenders, and then it got to the point where like they gave it its own belt because like I think it was like it became a whole thing where multiple guys would fight over it. But the thing with that was there had been that the Grand Championship itself, the belt has been in so many situations because it's supposed to be basically like the Intercontinental title.
Really?
Like their version of the Intercontinental or the United States is like that one.
I thought their version of the Intercontinental was the X Division.
No, that's the thing. It was back then. I'm talking about back then.
Okay.
Because the thing about that title was that title's been changed into so many different things. Like when it first started out, it was called the Legends Championship. This is something I know from actually when I used to watch TNA.
Okay.
Like, I don't really focus on it right anymore as of right now, but like it used to be called the Legends title. It was something brought in by Booker T. And it was like basically for those who were basically done, had considered legendary status. Then it was turned into the TV Championship. I don't know what happened to it after that because I was just like, I thought that was a good idea. You brought back the old TV Championship. And then it just kept on changing into other things to where it became the Global Championship. And then it became it got to the point where it became, I forgot what they turned into another title. And then it became the King of the Mountain Championship. And then they turned it into the Grand Impact Championship. So like that belt's gone through so many changes. Like I really don't know what in the world they're doing with it.
Neither do I, but I just think they need to. I understand what they're trying to do is combine a wrestling match with boxing and MMA, with with the time limit and the judges scoring. But to me, I don't know. It just looks like who would want to see a wrestling match with a time limit?
All wrestling matches have time limits.
No, but I'm saying, like, the way how it's set up for the Knockouts Championship, like in boxing and MMA. Mm-hmm. Like, I got confused at first when I was watching a Grand Championship match. Mm-hmm. Of course, EC3, he still holds the Grand Championship belt. There was a match this past episode of Impact where it was EC3 versus Matt Sydal for the Grand Championship. And still to this day, EC3 still holds the Grand Championship belt. Now, during the post promo, Matt Sydal was kind of like, complaining about, the rules and regulations. And I would have to agree on what he was saying in the promo. I don't know the exact words, but I do hope that in the future Impact Wrestling changes up that setup. Like, to me, it just doesn't work.
See, the whole thing is, it varies to the person, to people who are watching it. Like, I think if it's something interesting and it's something different for TNA, so that might be the thing right now. People are probably interested in it. So I can't really tell you how that's gonna go.
Okay.
Like, I just, like, for me, I thought it was a different concept from what it was. And now I remember, the last one was the actual Impact Championship. But, it was the Grand Impact Championship. I don't understand how the solo thing goes now, but yeah, as I said, they've changed it up so many times. Like, I don't really know what they're gonna do with it. But that, it's just like something they have to change. They have to, like, decide whether or not they'll change it again. Because that's what I foresee. If it doesn't gain much traction,
I should say they should keep the belt. They, leave it as the Grand Championship, but they just need to change,
the way.
the stipulation on how to obtain the belt. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's just like, as I said, that belt's been passed around so many times. That actual championship of what it's supposed to be and it keeps getting turned into has been changed around so many times. You don't know what they're gonna do with it.
So that's one thing I don't like about Impact Wrestling is, the stipulation with the Grand Championship. However, I do like, in a way, how Impact is going in collaboration with other indie federations. You have another federation, another Lucha Libre federation called AAA. You have some of the wrestlers from AAA. A matter of fact, some of the wrestlers from Lucha Underground are from AAA. Like Johnny Mundo, well, he's better known as Johnny Impact. They have like this hardcore wrestler known as Pagano. He's really, really good. If you're into hardcore matches, you should check him out. Hijo de Fantasma, he's also known as King Cuerno in Lucha Underground, but he wears a different mask in AAA and Impact Wrestling.
Wasn't Drago on there at one point?
Yes. Drago. You have Jeremiah Crane from Lucha Underground, also known as Sammy Callahan in the indie scene. He's the third member of OVE. Who else? You also have like a few other wrestlers from AAA wrestling that I can't remember from the top of my head because they wrestle, here and there. You have
You want to know something really interesting? Guess what New Japan Star used to be on TNA?
I would have to say either Shinsuke Nakamura or Kazuchika Okada. Both, right?
Yeah.
I've seen a clip. I don't know where was it. I don't know if it was an actual commercial clip that I've seen while watching Impact. Because, sometimes Impact Wrestling, they show old clips of TNA in order to promote their own version of the WWE network. But I actually seen a clip of both Shinsuke and Kazuchika Okada in TNA. And it was pretty cool.
The whole thing with Okada was, I remember that match. He had a match with Austin Aries when it was like they had a thing with New Japan.
Wasn't he that I've seen a clip when Austin Aries posed as he posed as a masked wrestler dressed in red. I don't know his name.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But we all know it wasn't really Suicide.
Yeah, he just.
People were speculating that the wrestler who was actually posing as Suicide, doing all the acrobatics and stuff was actually TJP.
Yeah. He worked there before he went to the cruiserweight division.
Austin Aries, he posed as Suicide.
To get what he wanted was he wanted the X Division title because he wanted to cash it in for option C.
This was the clip when Hulk Hogan was in TNA when he forced Suicide
to unveil himself.
Exactly. And when I saw that clip, I was like,
that's the point in all this. That's my thing. I was like, what's the point in having him unmask himself? But okay.
But Impact, I like how where Impact is going with all these, indie federations.
Yeah.
You have AAA. There's also another federation in Japan. It's not as popular as New Japan, but it's called Pro Wrestling Noah.
Mm-hmm.
The wrestler I don't know his name, but he's from Pro Wrestling Noah.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also in Impact Wrestling.
Okay.
Before I seen him in Impact Wrestling, I actually saw him wrestle in New Japan. Mm-hmm. It was him, and then there's another wrestler from Pro Wrestling Noah, which I don't know his name, but he's more like a striker. He wears like white shoes, black pants, and he throws like these really cool high-flying, not high-flying, but these really cool taekwondo kicks. Mm-hmm. Then you have an indie wrestling federation in Canada. And it's interesting that these federations, indie federations, that Impact is affiliated with, they actually have wrestlers from Impact wrestle. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually seen a clip in Impact Wrestling when they aired Impact Wrestling. Eli Drake defending his Global Force Championship belt in AAA Wrestling. And OVE wrestling in a Canadian indie federation, which I thought was cool. Who knows? We might see Sienna wrestling in Pro Wrestling Noah. I like Sienna. I'm a huge fan of Sienna.
I respect it. Look, I'm a huge fan of Kairi Sane, so that's why I can. I don't fault you for that. It's cool.
You don't like any other wrestlers in Impact from the Knockout division?
Gail Kim was always a personal favorite of mine, to be honest with you. ODB, I always enjoyed ODB because he was entertaining.
Oh, yeah, Gail Kim. Speaking of Gail Kim.
Oh, boy, what happened now?
I don't understand what the heck did she do?
What do you mean? What did she do?
Didn't you see Bound for Glory pay-per-view?
No, I didn't.
Okay. She won the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Against Sienna. I think she fought Sienna for the belt. The episode, I call it post, the episode after the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, the post Bound for Glory Impact episode, she relinquished her belt. Why would you relinquish the belt after winning the belt from Sienna?
Well, the possibility you probably haven't overlooked is she might have gotten injured. Think about it. She probably got injured during the match, like something in her leg or arm. It was like she had to get either possible surgery or something.
No, but people were speculating that this was supposed to be her last match. And prior to that, some wrestling fans are speculating that she might go to NXT.
Why?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm going to wait till that one. I'm going to wait till I hear the information because I really don't think she needs to. My thing with that is I don't think Gail needs to go back to WWE, especially like what happened with the last two times. Like, I'm going to be for real. WWE swerved her too many times for her to actually even, and yes, I use swerve, surprisingly. But, yeah, I don't think she really needs to go back. And I think, she can go to any other thing that, like, WWE doesn't really need her, because especially with how they're handling the women division right now. Because, like, I think they have too many females on their roster. Not so much like too many females, but more like let me rephrase that. They have too many stars And I think those people are going to be like, they're going to be starting to treat people like Mickey James like jobbers soon.
But I actually like where Impact is going. I know not that many wrestling fans like to watch Impact Wrestling, but I like it because of AAA, Johnny Impact, Pagano, all the wrestlers you see in Lucha Underground are basically in Impact Wrestling with affiliation with AAA. And it's also interesting to see wrestlers from Impact Wrestling wrestle in other indie federations. Speaking of which, it was also cool to see, you know, the wrestler Eddie Edwards? It was also cool to see Eddie Edwards wrestle in Pro Wrestling Noah and win the belt that they have in Pro Wrestling Noah, which is the GH title.
Nice.
GHC title.
Nice, congratulations to Eddie Edwards.
Am I correct in that belt?
I have to look at it again.
Yeah, I'm pretty let's just say it's their version of the heavyweight championship belt in Pro Wrestling Noah.
Okay. But no, there is one thing I did actually want to mention. This piggybacking back to something I forgot to mention. We talked about New Japan Wrestling. The Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Yes.
There was one match I forgot to actually mention that I actually did enjoy greatly.
Okay.
Cody Rhodes versus Kota Ibushi.
Yes. You know, it's interesting how Cody Rhodes came into the ring dressed up as one of my favorite superheroes.
Yeah.
You ever heard of Moon Knight?
Yes. That's why I was impressed too. I like that match because of the whole of the fact that it was a classic good guy versus bad guy because Kota Ibushi is called like the heart of, is considered the heart of New Japan.
Okay.
And like Cody Rhodes is just like this guy who just gives zero crap about anything. And it's just like, it got to the point where even his wife got involved. Like it got to the point where Kota Ibushi like thought he knocked out Randy and picked her up and was like trying to help her, like he felt so guilty. Then Cody like sucker punched him and he dropped her. I was like, oh, wait, he dropped your wife. I think that's a problem. I was like, wait, check the she's fine. She just comes and gets up laughing. I'm like,
oh yeah, I've seen that.
I was like, this girl right here. That's cruel. That's wrestling. I ain't gonna lie. It's pretty good. Like I felt bad because I really honestly thought with Cody losing his Ring of Honor championship, I thought like they were gonna give him this one at Wrestle Kingdom. But I'm happy that Kota won because at the same time, I remember that they had said during the match that the possibility that after this match, one of these two would possibly get the winner of this would possibly get a future world title opportunity. I wouldn't mind seeing Okada versus Ibushi. That would be awesome.
There was a recent match with, I don't want to say it was recent, but I've seen somehow through Japan a match between Kota Ibushi and Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a great match. I was kind of sad that Kota came up short.
Wasn't he in the Cruiserweight Classic?
Yes, he was. Yes. And WWE tried to actually sign him, but like Zack Sabre, he's like, I still have things I want to do before I actually do that. But he did stay around for a few more months to help them out with a few things. Like he was supposed to team up with Hideo Itami in the Dusty Rhodes Classic, but unfortunately Hideo got injured. Junior with GJP, and then he ended up getting manhandled by. Was it the Authors of Pain? Or was it Sanity? It was one of those two. I think it was Sanity that beat them.
That's all for today for this open discussion of Wrestler Geeks. Please feel free to email me at shawjustin576@gmail.com.
You can email me at blackfox777@gmail.com.
Once again, this is Wrestler Geeks. I'm your host, Justin Shaw.
And I am Black Fox.
Have fun, be safe, and don't get into any fights. This is Wrestler Geeks. We'll see you next time. Geeks.